In this lesson, we're going to be animating the ship using an expression. Okay, so to add this ship, let's come over here to our project panel and we'll grab the ship itself, and that's going to go in between the plane and the clouds. Now, it doesn't have to be on top. In fact, we should probably put the ship beneath the plane because the plane is technically above it since it's flying. And I'm going to take this over here. Now, it's a little bit large, so let's scale it down a bit. Just kind of right in there. And what I want to do with this is to basically animate it from here down to here. So what's happening here is that we have basically a ship that's floating. So in addition to the animation for it to move from here down to here, I wanted to have a little bit of rotation, almost like it looks like it's floating in the water. So before we animate from here to here, I'm going to add that rotation. So go ahead and select your ship, hit the R key to bring up rotation. And instead of getting it to rotate by moving it this way, setting a keyframe, going forward, moving it again, that's going to be kind of difficult to maintain. I mean, that's a lot of keyframes. So we can use an expression to do this for us. And actually, we talked a little bit about the stacking order, but I think this will actually be easier to animate that ship inside of the map comp. So select it, hit Control X, we'll go into our map comp and hit Control V. And this way it's going to ensure that the boat will be moving with the map, and also that the plane will be on top of it. So scale this down again. And we're going to move from probably about right here to down there. So just right in that area there is great. Okay, so again, grab your ship. Looks like it needs motion blur and continuously rasterize. And we'll hit the R key. And so as I was saying, if you set a bunch of keyframes, it's going to take a while. So I want to use an expression to illustrate the movement that I'm wanting. And we're doing it on that rotation property. So to get into the expression dialog, you want to hold down Alt and click the rotation stopwatch. And that's going to turn those numbers red. And then you have the place here where you can type your expression. So go ahead and highlight that. And the expression we're going to be using is the wiggle expression. So the wiggle expression is stated as the word wiggle. So type in wiggle, all lowercase, and then you're going to have an open and close parentheses. Now inside of this open and close parentheses is where you put your numbers that tell it in what way you want it to wiggle. So the first number is going to say how many times per second you want this to happen. So I'm going to say probably twice a second is good. I don't want it to be, if it was something like 50, it would look crazy. And if it's something like 1 time per second, we might not see it enough. So 2 is a good number. Then we're going to separate this with a comma. So I'll hit a comma. And then the next number is the amount of degrees it's going to rotate. So the rotation that I want is going to be different than if I was animating the same expression for position, because rotation basically goes from 0 to 360. So a 5 for a rotation property is a lot more movement than something for a position. So let's do a 5 and we'll just see how it looks. So I'm going to bring that little small work area back, and then you can just click anywhere to basically get out of that expression. And then you can hit the 0 key, and you see now our boat is moving. And it's going to do that indefinitely. Because that rotation has been shown as an expression, it will just keep floating in that same way, which I think is pretty nice. Now, we're still in the graph editor from our last lesson, so I'm going to click that and we'll go back to our timeline the way we are used to seeing it. And you can see here kind of what is going on. Now, what I want to happen is now the position to change from the boat being here to down here. So we'll hit the P key, and I'll go ahead and set a keyframe. And then let's go back out to our main transportation comp and see, I'm scrubbing here, when does the boat pretty much exit from here? So probably right about there. I mean, it's not very long. So looks like maybe 2.5 seconds. And actually, since the boat is going down, it's really not going to be visible for as long at all. So let's go back into our map and we'll move this down. Now, earlier we talked about keyframe interpolation. And in our case, our boat is moving so slowly and just kind of in such a small distance that I'm not too worried about ease in or ease out. But that keyframe interpolation does not just extend to temporal interpolation, which is the only thing we really talked about. That means the time, the way that the movement is distributed over time. So it's faster at the beginning, slower at the end, the other way around, a little bit of both. Lots of different ways you can describe temporal interpolation. But there's also a thing called spatial interpolation. And spatial interpolation simply means that something does not have to go in a straight line. You can have a curve to it. And I think that would be really nice for the animation of this boat. So if you see this little dot right here, this dot is the handle to a point, basically. And you can pull this and drag it over, and that creates a Bezier curve. So now instead of our boat moving straight down from point to point, now it's going to have kind of this straight movement and then go down towards the end. And then we also have this anchor point, or excuse me, this handle, Bezier handle there, that we can pull up as well. So I'm just scrubbing through and you can see how we can edit that curve. So it's really helpful for being able to create other types of paths besides ones that just go straight. Okay, so now that we have animated our boat using an expression and using some traditional keyframes to get that position data in there, we're going to move on to the next lesson where we're going to learn how to draw and animate a mask. So stick around and I'm going to show you how to make a mask in the next lesson.